we interrupt your regularly scheduled podcast for this very special feature of Hot Docket with your hosts, Bobby and Andrew of Meme Pug. This episode is a compilation episode, Legal Bites of Wisdom. Enjoy these small but mighty moments that will help you take your law firm marketing to the next level. We hope you enjoy.
Hot Docket Podcast. We're here. Legal Bites of Wisdom. Is that what we said? Legal Bites of Wisdom. We're talking to lawyers, people in the industry, marketing coordinators, directors, anybody who has interesting things to say about legal. I wish I could say that I saw more cutting edge strategies make their way in, like more interesting use of AI or like just interesting widgets. I haven't really seen so much of that. I feel like what I have seen is just like more consolidation of brand. So Morgan getting bigger, like other firms getting bigger and kind of eating up market share.
Yeah, I think the idea of like economies of scale within legal has always kind of been there, though. Even pre-digital being a large portion of where firms are getting cases, even within the digital landscape, there is a consolidation effect because the player at the top of Google is going to get roughly, let's say, a third of all case volume from search on those particular terms. The same has always been true of traditional media, too. Because of the buys happening, getting better unit economics as you have larger buys, it's somewhat always been the case. So legal, though, I think is particularly interesting because it is so fragmented and because such a large portion of the cases are still acquired through referrals and like just knowing attorneys. That's why I think it has lasted as long as it has as a fragmented industry.
Yeah, but I think like consolidation has gotten worse. Even if you just look at Google, there's more and more real estate taken up by paid placement. LSAs are now like the big and like what is it, big, hot and big thing in marketing, in digital marketing. That's just another paid placement. The top is paid, the bottom is paid. They're moving. Even the local SEO is now getting moved down on the SERP for more and more terms.
That dynamic though causes more consolidation.
Correct.
Yep.
Which is what I was saying. I think it's getting more and more consolidated over time.
Yeah, because in a lot of scenarios, the person who ranks number one in the paid listing is also ranking number one or number two within the organic listing. So if the click on Google's side, they always want more people clicking more ads and they want the cost of that click to be more, correct? So I think one way to think about this is there's always been like a small group of firms regionally that dominate. And I think that we're going to see that play out more and more.
Yeah. And like, we are not even talking about like hedge fund money and weird outside money coming into the space, which changes the dynamic in a way that I don't know we can predict.
I think one thing to think about is a lot of firms end up choosing a strategy that doesn't align with the type of firm that they are. So even talking strictly within personal injury as an example, you will see firms choose strategies that are more in line with being a volume firm when they are trial lawyers and they want a very selective type of case, but they will try to win in a channel that will bring in a lot of volume of cases that they wouldn't want to take anyway. So they may be better off choosing something that will increase their referral base, but they'll end up selecting a strategy that'll bring in a mass type of cases. And that just won't align with the type of firm they are.
I think the hard part about that problem is you can't cherry pick the cases. Somebody who got in a catastrophic car accident doesn't have a different targeting per se than somebody who got into a normal car accident.
Correct.
So you're just pivoting the problem from a marketing problem to an operations problem. How do you screen the volume of cases that you need to find the needle in the haystack?
You would change where you allocate your marketing resources. So they would probably be better off building out their referral relationships instead of spending the money on, let's say, PPC or SEO for car accident lawyer a term that's going to be difficult to win, and they wouldn't be able to service, let's call it 90% of the claims anyway, if they just wanted commercial policies or something along those lines.
I think, though, at the end of the day, a lot of it still comes down to just opportunity cost. Like, if you're a firm that's small and you have very limited spend, yes, you need to cherry pick the thing that's going to drive the value quickest. However, if you're a firm that is in some ways struggling to allocate spend, you have a marketing budget, you want to spend it, you have short, medium, long-term growth horizons, at that point, you still have the same problem of where to put the money to hit those time horizons. And I think a lot of firms just don't necessarily break down the problem into that level of granularity. They're just like, I want cases.
Yep. And then another problem when you're looking at a arbitrary number that is your budget for, let's say, the year, is you are left over with a certain amount that needs to be spent, but certain strategies will have a certain level of allocation that they will need. So oftentimes those firms will underfund certain channels, and they will look at that poor performance in that channel and not know what to do with it the next year after looking at the performance of the previous year, when what they really need to do was increase that channel that was struggling instead of maybe in the following year cutting it altogether. Bobby and I met, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. We were working together at a startup at the time, and it was one of those environments that was, I'd say, like a very work hard, play hard environment. And I don't know, we just connected there, and we've worked together ever since.
Yeah, I have some pretty epic at that place. Ruckus. For anybody who's big into secondary ticket marketplace and wants to collect dead companies, Ruckus. We had, I remember, dart guns. Like, we had Nerf guns, but we got the super high powered ones that I think are illegal in the US, and they're only like available in China, with like the like plastic tipped heads, the ones that take out an eye. So I remember we would have crazy like full company Nerf battles in the hallways. It was in WeWork too. It was when WeWork was fun. We had like crazy battles, and I remember probably like one of my clearest memories of that was pistol whipping you in a corner. Yes. I think I came into the other one, and we had like barricades set up, and I came over and pistol. It's pretty bad. Yeah, that was probably a lawsuit.
Yeah, I feel like pretty much everyone there got an eye shot out, and it was usually the bystanders that were like the casualties to the eye shots.
I remember that CEO, very quick to fire, very quick to like let people go. And I had a new intern on my team. So I was the first engineer, so I had a couple of people under me. I had a new intern on my team, and I was just like getting her warmed up, getting her set up with her computer, all that other stuff. I go to the bathroom. 5 minutes later, I come back. She's gone. And I say, whatever her name is. And he goes, oh, I fired her. Like, she wasn't working out. Same day. So there was a lot of stuff like that went on that I remember.
I'm not sure these are stories that need or should be shared.
Well, no, there's probably an employment lawyer listening. Employment lawyers, that's got to be something bad about that, right? I guess it's at will employment. Yeah. Okay. I don't know.
I think that was an unpaid intern. To be fair,
she was. So yeah.
It's not even. It's just very. I don't even want to get into it.
Okay. Are there any other stories?
That was his fun story. I just want to bring this back full loop.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun story. I mean, like, there were crazy stories. We had, this was the time when there was WeWork summer camp. I don't know if anybody was around during this. This is obviously before, like, the Newman implosion and things happened there. But at WeWork summer camp, it was like a adult summer camp where we would get shipped off to the woods of northern New York with like 400 people, 500 people, Adirondacks, which is northern New York.
Yeah.
Okay. So Adirondacks with like 400 people, and it would just be, you'd get there, it'd be like canoes full of beer, like liquor stands, things like that everywhere. They're like throwing beer at you when you first get off, and they would ship in like great. We had the first year, I think we had chain smokers came in and performed. They flew him in on a helicopter. The Weeknd came in the second year and they flew him on a helicopter into like the main area. So it was a crazy time. And like there are obviously ridiculous things that happen there, but I don't know that I can talk about it on this podcast.
Probably goes into that category of best not to as well.
So what are we talking about? What are we talking about here?
On the digital side, things typically break out into a few different buckets. You've got search, where there's going to be SEO and paid search, and then paid search will fork again into the native varieties like local search ads or local service ads, as well as the more traditional paid search ads. And those break down into different intent types. So some folks are going after more transactional intent terms like law firm, whatever type of law firm you are, employment lawyer, personal injury lawyer, while other terms will be more informational. So it'll be something like, what do I do after a car accident? Or what do I do if insurance is not paying a claim? And those sort of strategies are very different, and the landing pages for them are very different. And you need a marketing team that can focus on both. So you're not going to want just a specialist for SEO, or just a specialist for PPC, or just a company that can make a website. You need all those things to work together. So on the search side, that's like a basic overview. And then you have other walled gardens like social, which has both organic and paid components to it as well. I think every firm needs to start with their brand. So your brand is more than just a website, but I think a lot of times a website is the starting place because that's where most potential clients will see you. That's where a lot of referral partners will go to look up your phone number, and having a very professional, differentiated brand online is super important.
Yeah, I mean, how many people we've talked to who say you guys were like a breath of fresh air. It was so great seeing like a company in the legal marketing space that doesn't fit the mold of everybody else. That's not unique to our business. That's every business. You want to differentiate your brand. It doesn't have to be that you're the most professional or the hardest fighter or the like most passionate, but you should be the most something, right? So like figuring out what that most is and then making sure that your brand and your site highlight that. Like that will be how you end up building your marketing collateral, how you end up building your content presence, how you end up building your social media. It all starts from that singular point.
Yep. And I think there are some attributes that every firm is going to want to say they want to be known as. So like trusted and honest being some of those. Those are things that every
dishonest,
firm needs.
Untrustworthy lawyers.
Yeah. Yep. So I don't think you can completely make your differentiation on those things that are kind of table stakes.
Yeah, agreed. But I'm almost interested to know what would happen if you tried. What if you made what if your brand, what if, I'm not saying to do this, but what if a law firm went out and said, we are the scrappy lawyers. We're going to do whatever it takes to win. And like whatever it takes. Obviously, I don't even know if you can do this like at all because it's probably unethical and you're going to get barred depending on like where you're practicing. But I am curious.
I think there are some examples like that that have edgy advertisements, and their whole brand is whatever the law firm is wins. And you do see these in some markets. So the one that comes to the top of my mind when you talk about like an edgy ad, it would be the Mike Morse ads, where he like looking at one of them where I think I've shown you this TV commercial where a guy drops his wallet and the attorney
Ambulance chaser
picks it up and it looks like he's chasing an ambulance.
Yeah.
He's leaning into some of the stereotypes and leaning into the I'll do whatever it takes to win sort of thing. And he's been very successful in his geographic regions doing that.
Yeah.
So I think there are two groups. Well, there's probably more than two groups, but the two main groups of people that would survive a zombie apocalypse are going to be preppers that have stored food and guns and gold and all that. I think Bobby falls into that category. He's a very like thought out person. Then there are going to be the people that hunt the preppers because they know that they've got all the resources needed to survive. So would Bobby survive? Probably as a prepper.
Wait, I think she's asking, would you survive too?
Would I survive? Well, I know that you have all of these things prepped, so I'd have
You
to
forgot
hunt
the third
you
category,
down.
the parasite. The parasite who feeds on the prepper.
Well, I would say there's the fourth category too, the completely unprepared that are just not going to make it. So,
But you said it. This was who you said will make it. So the fourth category of who won't make it.
the food for everyone else.
Right. Okay. So the food. So there's preppers, there's hunters, there's parasites, and there's food. Yeah.
Food, fodder, you could replace.
Do I think zombie? I think the problem with it is like zombie apocalypse falls under. Is it 28 weeks later, 28 days later style zombie, or is it like Walking Dead zombie? Are they shambling, or are they sprinting? Right. Like if it's a sprinting zombie, I don't think I make it because, like, I mean, my legs aren't what they used to be. But I think if it were a shambling zombie, very good chance. I just have to hole up. I've got my gold. For everyone listening, I don't have gold. No gold. I have food hoarded. I've got
Bad
food.
cardiovascular endurance.
Bad
and
cardio.
easy
I've got
to
food, bad
rob.
cardio, and I mean, there might be a gun somewhere.
Perfect target.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I could probably live on a shambling scenario for, let's call it a year or two. I think I'd probably get like lackadaisical at some point. Might be out hunting, a shambler comes up behind me, kills me. That could happen. But I think I actually think Andrew would live longer, just kind of jumping parasite to parasite like a tick. He'd kind of move between hosts and find his way.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think there are some definite attributes that can be measured with strong brands. One will be that they have a higher conversion rate. So a brand with a good brand is going to convert higher. So when they run media, whether that be TV or digital ads, they will see a higher conversion rate. So they will get more cases for the same amount of money. They also have higher recall. So people are going to remember their creatives. And that again gives you better performance numbers. So you get this sort of Lollapalooza effect where you have good building on good. And I think that is the most important aspect of firms that do well.
And just to highlight that with a real world example, we built probably like a unnecessarily outrageous LinkedIn job description that we use for all of our job descriptions we post on LinkedIn. When you're going through the posting process on LinkedIn, it tells you, here's how much you will likely get, like here's how many applicants you'll likely get for your budget. Our numbers we get on applications are probably triple to quadruple what they estimate. And the reason why is because our job description is so branded and like so over the top and so kind of like outside of the norm. And that leads to, even though it's not conversion rate on like a revenue generating metric, it does lead to a conversion rate bump on our application quality and quantity.
Yeah, you're going to get there are so many examples like that where you're going to win out in getting better employees, you're going to get better retention, and you're going to get it for better rates because you have more to choose from. So I think that it's true of a lot of things that your brand is really the most important.
I think my favorite 3 places in New York, I haven't gone to Lucali and I haven't gone to Lindustry, which I feel like everybody kind of puts in their favorites. So I feel like it's a little skewed, but top 3 favorite is probably Brooklyn Pizza Masters. I actually like the one in Midtown, which is kind of nonsensical. I like that. I like Williamsburg Pizza on Upper East Side, which is also nonsensical. And then I like probably Table 87 is number 3.
Yeah, I'd go with Table just because that is our convenience slice around us. That's high quality.
Slice.
And I also I think it's Upside. I really like for some of their variety style slices, like their vodka slices.
Yeah.
are really the only vodka slices I've had that I've liked. So I would give them a mention. In terms of topping style, I think that pepperoni's really hit or miss. You need the cup and char.
They need the char.
Little curled pepperonis if you're going to go pepperoni. A lot of times, though, those style of slices can get too oily just because of the fats and meats. I think the topping that has the most variability would be something like a sausage, where it could be absolutely disgusting or amazing. And it's really, really hard to find a good sausage and pepper slice. But when you do, amazing.
Toppings just screw up all it ruins the structure of a pizza. So I that's for that reason. I used to be a big pepperoni guy. I still think pepperoni can hold its own. I just feel terrible when I eat it. So I'd say it's either going to be mushroom, which I feel like doesn't really disrupt the pizza integrity, or onions, which also they're just light enough that they sprinkle on top.
Onions are so underrated on a pizza.
Yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah. The only wrong answer is probably pineapple.
Yeah. So I'm of the camp that if you can't measure it, it's kind of bullshit. And the ultimate KPI is always going to be ROI, of money in, money out. Every other metric that's not that is kind of a proxy hoping to achieve that, right? So I think if you look at ROI, one level above that would be something like a cost per case, which isn't as good as ROI because some cases just hold much higher value. So you have ROI, cost per case, then you have a lot of proxy metrics that will get to those, which would be a cost per lead, cost per intake, CPM if you're buying on an impression basis. But yeah, we're of the camp that if you can't measure it, it's kind of bullshit. And each channel will have its own KPIs and measurements that are important. So for SEO, it might be something like rank tracking and looking where you rank for each particular term, or the number of terms you have ranking, or the traffic you get from it, or the conversion rate from that traffic. All of those things are things you should look at, but the time windows for some of them are totally different.
I agree, but I think to play devil's advocate, I also think you shouldn't be dogmatic. You should do things that might not be measurable if they're good ideas and you want to try them. For instance, let me give an example. We ran an ad in Trial Lawyer magazine. We didn't see results for a year. Then we got 2 or 3 calls in maybe a month's time span. I don't know if we had measured that and just gone based on measurement alone a month and a half ago or whatever, it would have looked like an abysmal failure. But if you think about how that medium actually works, those things stay around forever in people's offices, in lawyers' offices. They get picked up by other lawyers. They get looked at by clients who then talk to the lawyer. So if you put something memorable in there, even though it's not immediately trackable, what the brand lift is, or the direct response conversion rate, it might still be a good idea. So I think you can't really be dogmatic in how you look at things.
Yeah, that comes back down to the timeline in which you're looking at it. And unfortunately, I feel like with most of these metrics, the timeline is when the decision maker is looking at it at that particular day, right?
Yeah.
So I think, a lot of those things you need to look at it at longer time horizons, but it never happens that way because you're not scheduling it ahead of time to say, this is the day we're going to make a decision on 2 years worth of data prior to that, or whatever it may be.
And you also hear all over, all the time, should I get billboards? Should I get TV commercials? Should I put a tracking number in there? Should I get a vanity number? Should you not get a vanity number because you can't track it? Probably not. A good vanity number is worth its weight in gold.
Yep.
So there is a give and a take, I think, to this question.
Yeah, but it can be tracked in terms of the lift of using a vanity number versus a non-vanity number, right? You could do that, but it's not worth it because it's going to be better, right?
Yeah.
So part of it is using common sense, where you don't need to over measure. I would say Bobby would be one of the nerdy engineering villains, which isn't something that's very common. But I feel like there was that the GoldenEye episode of James Bond, how there was Boris, where he always was like a genius and he ended up exploding himself with that little clicky pen. That's who I'd have to choose for Bobby if I had to
Not
think
Scrooge?
of a villain. Scrooge is a good one too.
Pile of money.
How could I not remember
Pile of gold.
Scrooge?
Yeah. Okay. Who's
Classic prepper.
Yeah. Okay. Who's that guy in Game of Thrones who flays people? Like loves to like puts them on sticks and flays their backs. Ramsay.
I don't remember.
I think you'd be Ramsay.
What was his house?
Um,
God, I can't remember this.
I keep on thinking Iron Worm or like Worm Eye or something, but I think that's the other guy. I think that's the one who he slices off his pee-pee. Is the gray worm he slices, I think.
Who was the Iron? He was
He was an Ironborn. Grey Worm was an Ironborn.
But I can't remember who the other guy was.
I think it was Ramsay.
Oh, you picked the most violent,
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that? Each other.
I think well, you didn't really give me a name. You didn't give me a name for the engine. You said engineering guy who blows his hand.
Boris from GoldenEye.
I don't know Boris from GoldenEye. So
But we'll have to pull up a clip and show it.
do you feel like you relate to Ramsay, the flayer?
The Flayer. No, he's a little bit too far.
Okay.
The amount of like torture for pleasure there is probably the most I could think of anyone, any TV villain.
So you like torturing for pleasure, but slightly less?
Yeah, I think this is different state by state. So some things that'll fly in California might not in Georgia or North Carolina or South Carolina. Every state has different ethics and bar compliance that you need to follow. So for some channels, it's very like cut and dry what you can and can't do. And then it changes firm by firm. Some firms, even beyond the ethics of it, have a different type of brand and reputation that they want to uphold. And I feel like the firms that are most conservative in that regard are going to be like trial lawyers who have like a lifetime or multiple generations of reputation that they have to uphold.
But also to directly respond to how we maintain this and how we do it, it all comes down to like having a team that can do the, because no one's going to know all the ethics state by state. You need to have a team that you can trust and who has experience marketing for legal. So they have like an understanding of the pitfalls, can do their own research, and ensure that everything's compliant.
Yep. And also the just passing everything through the firm that you're working with too. Because even beyond the compliance, it's making sure the firm you're working with is happy with what you're going to run. For me,
What's the type that tortures other people?
is that a corporate attorney?
Yeah.
I think this is a like hard question because I feel like my skill set would just be like an attorney that would originate cases. So if it was geared that way, I think I would care less about the type of law and more about where you fit in the ecosystem. So I would probably originate all types of cases. But if I actually had to practice and choose something that's like interesting to me, I think it would be a different answer, where it might be something in like intellectual property or something
be like
that you get
eel
to.
law. It'd be like the law of eel hunting.
Environmental.
Yeah, it would be something outrageously esoterical. Yeah, I think mine would probably be IP because I get to see cutting edge tech. I would understand what they're going for and like roughly how it could be original. I think that's where I would practice. I think we're both horrible networkers. This is like a tough question. That's why we have a third partner.
Yeah.
I don't know. What have you found success in?
I would say that it's a very important part of any business, whether it's, especially if it's a B2B business, where the like conversion path isn't always so clear and the timelines for when someone needs an agency or someone who provides any level of like specialized service. I think referrals are always going to be the most important, but those are things that take time and energy of partners to actually do. So it might be going to events, or it might be, whining and dining. The people who
You do a lot of whining and dining?
No.
Yeah, I think for us, I personally just can't stand like very shallow kind of surface level conversation. So I think it makes me that and is probably one component of what makes me a really poor networker. So I think it's probably true for you too. And the reason that I think what that leads to is most of our networking is really in the form of client introductions, coworker introductions, when they kind of understand that we like to think about these problems deeply and want to talk to other people about it deeply. So they intro us.
I think the
rising.
only milk is milk.
Okay. Do you want to elaborate?
Only milk is milk. It's pretty simple.
What's a sandwich?
A sandwich has a bunch of different types.
What makes a sandwich a sandwich?
You want to go into the sandwich definition?
Not really, but I also think it's the same argument for milk. Why is almond milk not milk?
Because it is not from a mammal. Milk has
So milk has to be from an animal.
Yeah, that's the actual FDA definition of it.
Is that the FDA definition of it?
Mm-hmm. Look it up.
I hate that argument because I can't look it up right now. I would say it's not so. It's more about the semantic meaning of milk, not the dictionary meaning. When you have a burger doesn't have to be meat. A burger could be a veggie. Why does milk have to be mammal?
I don't believe in a veggie burger either being a burger.
Well, okay. So I think we found the answer here. He's just wrong. If a veggie burger isn't a burger's in the name, veggie burger.
Nope. It's just not a burger. It's a compare to a burger.
Let's move to the next question. I think there's room for improvement across many dimensions. There's room for improvement on the marketing side. You still see a ton of brands, law firm brands that look all the same. They're all trying to walk the same line, do the same things. And that's not how marketing and branding work. So marketing, branding, lots of room for improvement. Second layer, I would say, is operational, basically handling intake, putting things into a CRM so that you can follow up on them and track them and all that good stuff. I think legal is getting there. At least there's there's plenty of CRMs to choose from. There's plenty of knowledge, I think, being shared around why to do it. I still think there's slow to adopt, which is just kind of common to what we see in legal as a whole. So at least we're moving in the right direction. I think on the other side of operations, call center side, I've said it for a while. I think there's a huge lack of reliable call center solutions if you wanted to outsource that problem as a law firm. So I think there's if someone could figure out that problem, which, it's easy to just say spin up a call center. It's much harder when you understand the breadth of practice areas and how each one requires a different type of agent, different script, everything. Yeah. So it's not an easy problem, but there is a problem there. And then I guess the third layer is the back office type of work. So how does tech relate to the actual litigation process? And we actually have a guest on today who we're going to be talking to about that pretty deeply. I wouldn't say that's my strength. I don't think I have a ton of knowledge around how the legal process works kind of behind the scenes, but I'm sure that there's plenty of room for improvement.
I'm going to agree across the board.
Wow.
I have nothing to add there.
So you had plenty to say about milk and burgers, but you can't talk about innovation in legal.
I think most of the area that is lacking isn't necessarily due to technology. It's just the use of it, where the technology's been around for a while. Even you were talking about CRMs, there's still a ton of firms that don't even use a CRM or an intake process. So a lot of it is going to be on the intake and the operations side.
You're also constrained on marketing. It's kind of unfair because you just can't do things that are modern. You can't run retargeting on GDN, right? It's just a barred situation. They won't let you do it. The audiences aren't allowed, or whatever, RLSAs or whatever it is, right? So it's hard to innovate when you're being like kneecapped by the platform.
Yep. And then there are other platforms where you just can't run at all. So like all of that will exist, but typically the largest constraint on the marketing side will probably be budget, right? Because every company is going to have a budget, and that will probably be the first thing hit. But on the ops side, you don't need to change $1 going in, right? You can make a lot of those changes to the process, and you'll probably see a better result than increasing or decreasing budget on the front side.
We're your hosts, Bobby and Andrew, founders of MeanPug, the marketing agency for ambitious law firms.
Have questions about marketing or anything we covered today? Email us at bark@meanpug.com